in the fallout of the mounted chasing of Haitian migrants trying to seek refuge, asylum in the United States, in the wake of those images that we saw with Border Patrol armed with whips and honestly shouting epithets and being incredibly just openly racist and xenophobic towards those migrants. The special envoy to Haiti of the Biden administration has resigned. So the US Special Envoy for Haiti resigned in protest over the deportation of Haitian migrants. The US decision to send migrants to a country where armed gangs controlled daily life was inhumane, Daniel Foote said in his resignation letter. Right, okay, so not only do we have the chasing down of migrants in that incredibly inhumane way, but the actual deportation of them as well. So we know that flights are continuing. There have been, at least 3 to 5 flights, something like that. We're talking about, thousands of migrants. And all of this is happening under Title 42, which is this emergency order that was enacted or enabled by the Trump administration because of COVID-19 and the pandemic, and that Biden wants continued. In fact, the administration is fighting in court to have this continued, to be able to continue to deport Haitian migrants back to a country that's so unstable. So this is from Daniel Foote, again in that resignation letter, special envoy to Haiti, says, I will not be associated with the United States' inhumane, counterproductive decision to deport thousands of Haitian refugees and illegal immigrants. Daniel Foote said in a letter addressed to the Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken, that circulated publicly on Thursday. Foote is a career diplomat named in July as special envoy to Haiti, said conditions in the country were so bad that US officials were confined to secure compounds. He said the collapsed state was unable to support the influx of returning migrants. So think about that, right? He's saying that my American diplomats in Haiti are not even leaving their compounds. Like these folks are unsafe, and these folks have like all the privileges in the world, right? They're American diplomats in a foreign country. So imagine what a Haitian migrant with a family, displaced, fleeing violence. Imagine how they're feeling. Imagine what they're coming back to. Caroline, your thoughts on this sort of act of protest? One of the few in the early ones we've seen in this administration.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. We got very used to these sort of defiant resignations under the Trump administration, and it's hard. I can't think of a resignation that's been as powerful as this one. And you know what? I really think it's a great use of his power. I mean, the images that have been coming out of the border are truly inexcusable, and the administration's response, frankly, has been as well. I mean, if folks saw the video of Kamala Harris, like if you didn't know who she was, you would not know that she was the vice president of the administration that was overseeing what's happening. I mean, it's just, I think resignations like this are super important because they prove that the Democrats are in power. It's not an excuse anymore to just use the language of being shocked and outraged. You control all 3 branches of government, and that's obviously not an easy thing. And the border, politics around the border is always fraught with so much tension. But you need to, you have to stop shirking the responsibility and take some of it on. And I think that we deserve answers rather than, oh my gosh, this is awful. This isn't who we are. That's
we'll
like
look into that. We'll start an investigation.
Yeah, like this isn't who America is. It's just, it's insane. This is your America right now. And we took the Trump administration to task, rightfully so, time and time again. And this is no excuse to stop doing that. This is who America is at this moment, and we need answers, and we need to reckon with that. And the moral outrage in statements on Twitter just isn't going to cut it.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when they don't actually have concrete answers other than, hey, Customs and Border Patrol is going to investigate Customs and Border Patrol. How is that at all? What we mean, again, this is the problem, and I will get into, there is a story of police violence later in the show. But this is the problem with police investigating themselves and departments investigating themselves. Look, this special envoy to Haiti has, think about the things that have happened under his time, right? You've got the assassination of the president, Jovenel Moise. You have an earthquake that killed 2,000 people and counting, displaced many thousands. And now you have this Haitian migrant crisis, and you see that the folks that you're trying to build relationships with, you're trying to create some sort of stability, are being specifically targeted. Look, I mean, I'm not saying that there haven't been mounted CBP that have chased migrants off of the border. But this is the first time we are seeing it, right? And this is and it should not be lost on anyone, the fact that these are Black migrants. And so imagining, at what point you feel like you can no longer do good in that administration, in your role, because no one's actually empowering you to do so, because you're being set up for failure. And honestly, I mean, and this is the thing, it's very interesting, right? We're however many months into, 8 months into this administration, and you've got Customs and Border Patrol doing this. You've got Jen Psaki, the press secretary, unable to explain it. You've got the vice president, Kamala Harris, unable to explain it. No one's able to explain it. Maybe that is because Customs and Border Patrol are out of control, that nobody has a leash on them, right? That they should be defunded, that ICE and Customs and Border Patrol, by the way, CBP, I believe, and I don't have the stats right now, but I remember I did a story on the border for AJ Plus years ago. They have more money than pretty much like all of other federal agents. They have more money than like the FBI, I believe. They have some of like the most incredible funding sources, right? And a lot of, I mean, people are always talking about, even Democrats, we got to put more CBP officers. Well, you talk to organizers on the border and they say that, yeah, they're just sitting there in their cars. They're just sitting there in their like air conditioned, like, giant Humvees, like watching Breaking Bad, which I feel like is what they would be watching, or something ridiculous about, like they are overfunded, right? And we see that here in the ways that militarism is not the answer and is not the way to solve this.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.